Every mystery forms a complex web. But pull the right strand, and it's a straight line to the answer.
I'm glowing bright obsidian.
Universe trends to disorder.
Axolotl amphibian. Monsters on the loose. Unelemental chemical.
All you can do is fight to keep the chaos from your door.
I came here to offer you a job. My friend disappeared.
You haven't given us much to go.
What can I say? The world's a dangerous place. But I think you're braver than you let on.
Got me growing six black tentacles.
You've been in a hole ever since Ruby died.
We're chasing ghosts.
Maybe we can be alone together.
This is your chance to put that shovel down. So what are you waiting for? Let the best man live.
This is how it ends.
The people could use a hero. Fighting is the point.
He's the best show in town.
What happened to your face?
I walked into a door.
How many times?
Well, that's new.
Yes, it sounds crazy, I know.
All right. Good evening, everybody. What you just watched was the trailer for the new Amazon Prime series from Sony Studios and Marvel called Noir. It is Spider-Man set in film noir universe, an alternate reality from the normal standard Marvel. We're going to get to that tonight because if you haven't seen that, you're going to want to. It's good. Anyway, welcome to another episode of This Week Unloaded. I am your host, Rich White. As usual, see who we got there on the YouTube side so far in the chat. We got Pack Rat's Attic and Denny's Plant-Based Journey. So good evening to both of you. And remember, if you're out there and don't say anything, we don't know you're there. Denny's says it looks kind of cool. Oh, it's really good. Chef's kiss. If you like comic book movies or TV shows or film noir, you don't have to be a fan of either one or of both. If you're a fan of film noir or comic book movies and TV shows, you're going to love it. It's great. No joke. I went into it with trepidation because I'm not a big Nicolas Cage fan, and he's great in the show. He was probably the perfect pick to play the guy who's Spider-Man in the show. They just call him the Spider because due to contracts and with the language and the violence in the show and the drinking and smoking, Marvel didn't let them use the Spider-Man name, even though Sony has the rights to that. But under their contract, they can only, PG-13, and it goes a little bit beyond PG-13. Not a lot. Like there's no sex scenes or anything like that. It's mainly, but there is some pretty graphic violence in certain scenes. And again, they're smoking and drinking. Okay, it's set in the 1930s, early 1930s in particular. All the cars are like 1920s vintage cars, and Nicolas Cage plays a older World War I veteran, down on his luck private investigator who just so happens to have Spider-Man's powers. So, yeah, it's it's good. And the mystery involves what's going on, why all these people are starting to develop these superpowers, and it's. I'm not going to go too far into spoilers. I don't want to, but the cast, whoever did the casting on this, deserves an Emmy. No joke. Not hyperbole in the least. They did it. I don't know if there is a casting Emmy out there or a Golden Globe. One of those awards, whoever was in charge of this casting deserves to win that because the casting is excellent for the show. The entire everybody is just right for the roles that they're playing. It's amazing how well they did with the casting on it. Hey, and Felicia Hardy, the Asian woman in the video, in the comics and everything, she's not Asian, but the woman playing the part did such a good job, you don't even notice. Honestly, you forget if you know anything about the Spider-Man lore and everything. You forget that the character in the comics isn't Asian because she goes beyond the role, if you know what I mean. Really well done, really well done, and I recommend watching it in the black and white, especially if you're the film noir fan. The black and white version of it. I tried watching one episode in color, and I switched it back to watching it in black and white again. If you're like I said, especially if you're a film noir fan, you're going to want to watch it in the black and white because that just captures the feel of the show more. And them doing that in black and white was just an extra little touch that makes it feel like you're watching something from the 30s and 40s. You know what I mean? It gives it that feel. Which a show like that, because it is based on film noir, Nicolas Cage has stated that he watched a bunch of Humphrey Bogart's old movies, and he's a Humphrey Bogart fan himself, which is why he wanted to do the show. And you can see that coming through in his portrayal, especially one scene in particular where he's wearing a disguise to get into some place, and the disguise he lifts is one that Bogart uses in The Big Sleep. So really well done. I can't hype this show up enough. It's very, very well done. It's it's you can watch it in a day. It's 8 episodes. They're all on Amazon. They released it all at once. So it's up there. You can binge watch it and you don't even realize you've watched almost 8 hours of television by the time it's over. It feels like you just watched a 2 hour movie, honestly. And it's supposed to get a second season, but the way they did it, it doesn't end on a cliffhanger like a lot of series do with the season finale. They wrap everything up and put a nice bow on it by the end of the season. It's really well done. Really well done. The guy that plays Robbie Robertson, the reporter that Spider-Man, who isn't Peter Parker in this, he's Ben Riley, who is a canonical name to the Spider-Man franchise. He's the Crimson Spider, who is a clone of Spider-Man. But again, because of the contract issues and the level of violence, the drinking, the smoking, they couldn't use Peter Parker's name, just like they couldn't use the Spider-Man name, like I was saying earlier. Because, like I said, they just call Nicolas Cage's character's alter ego the Spider, because, again, they can't use Spider-Man because of the reasons I already laid out there. But it's really good. And Spider, if or Spider-Man if you prefer, but the Spider isn't above killing somebody if he has to. There's one fight scene where I believe he shoots somebody and then he causes somebody else to get shot by somebody else. And so, yeah, he's not above doing that. It's got that gritty film noir feel to it where he's the hero, but he's not afraid to get his hands dirty if he has to. Yeah, and the main villain is Silvermane, who's in the Marvel universe is one of the main mob bosses. He's a competitor with the Kingpin of Crime and all that, and he's played by veteran actor Brendan Gleeson, and he does a really good job, spot on with that cast. Like I said, all the casting is like beautifully done, and there's little Easter eggs hidden throughout the movie too from different film noir movies, like minor spoiler if you so, but Silvermane's walking through his warehouse towards the end of the season, and you see over his shoulder the Maltese Falcon sitting there on one of the shelves. Yeah. So if you when you watch, keep your eye. If you're a fan of the old film noir movies, keep your eyes open for different little Easter eggs because they're in there. Like I said, it was. I can't say it enough how well done this movie or TV show. It feels like a movie. You're watching a TV show, but it feels like you're watching a movie. If that makes any sense. If you, they could have made this a series of movies and probably made more money. But yeah, and if you, like I say, if you have Amazon Prime video service, Amazon Prime, you can watch this on there. That's where it's at. And I'm trying to think of stuff I can tell you guys about it without going into spoilers. Yeah, I was really surprised how well Nicolas Cage did in this because, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of his. A lot of people like Nicolas Cage. I really don't. Most of Nicolas Cage's roles, I don't find him believable. But something about this part, he just clicked with it, and it works. That was the one thing that I had trepidation about going into this was him in the role of Spider-Man, and I come away loving him in the part. They did. I mean, it's just then he says it says they have 8 shows in the series. He says he's looking forward to it. Don't spoil it for him. I'm trying not to, man. See, I didn't care for the National Treasure movies, honestly. I didn't care for the source material that they were made from either. So there's that whole thing. Yeah, I've never been a big Nicolas Cage fan. The one movie of his I really used to like when I was younger was Raising Arizona, though. I'll say that. I thought Raising Arizona with him and Holly Hunter was pretty good. But most of his films are meh. I feel the same way about him, like I in a similar way that I do with oh, what the hell's his name? So you guys, so like Keanu Reeves. I'm not a big fan of his either, for much the same reason. I don't find their acting believable. It's like I always tell people, Keanu Reeves should have stopped at playing Bill S. Preston. Then he says, "Oh, it's not something where you buy it as historical, but more of that comic book kind of storyline." They did a good job of merging the comic book story, the comic book characters into the film noir. You don't even realize you're watching a comic book show. It's got that gritty film noir detective movie feel to it more than it does a comic book movie feel. Are there elements from the comic books in it? Well, yeah, because you got guys with superpowers. But other than that, it doesn't have the comic book movie feel to it. You're not going to go into this thinking you're watching the Avengers because it's totally different feel. You're going to go into this more like you're watching the Maltese Falcon, the Big Sleep, something along those lines. It's got more of that feel to it. Like I said, most of the movie or most of the TV show, I should say, Nicolas Cage is not in his spider costume. He's just out there doing uh, Philip Marlowe kind of stuff in regular street clothes. It's not till you really get to the end. And even then, he's not in costume as much as what you might think he might be. It it plays out more like an old film noir detective movie, honestly. Philip Marlowe, Sam Spade, those kinds of characters. The Thin Man, that kind of stuff. That's that's the way it's meant to feel with the mystery that the detective is working on being about how these guys are getting their powers. Why they're just randomly starting to show up. Again, I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to get into spoilers. And it's hard to do because anything I say potentially is going to be a spoiler at this point. But that one thing I will say, and this comes off right in the first episode, so it's not really a spoiler. But Nicolas Cage plays the detective as a reluctant superhero. He doesn't want the superpowers, but he has them, and so just again, that's not a so that plays part into his character. Really good, really good. M. Gabriel out there on the YouTube side. Yeah, if you have Amazon Prime, I can't recommend this show enough. I went into it expecting little and came away very happy to have watched it. It's probably the best television series I've watched in 2 decades. No joke. It's very, very well done. And it's not preachy either. It's set in the 30s, so you have some of the racist elements of that period in the show, but they don't preach about it. Like there's one scene where Robbie's walking by a place and there's a whites only sign. He goes back around the back and pays off the one bellhop, and that's it. That's as far as they go with it. They don't have a 10-minute monologue about how evil that whites only sign out front is. They don't beat you over the head with it anywhere in the series. It's just there because that was a way of life back then. So, I mean, the one part that even gets close to being that way takes place in Harlem, where Robbie's going to try and find this one black vet from World War I, and there's a guy that's down on his luck and they're bullshitting basically. And it's not preachy, it's just them complaining about their plight in life. It it's believable. It's what you would expect somebody who's in that situation to talk to somebody who they think would commiserate with them. You know what I mean? It's not preachy in the least, which is excellent. Then he says, "Okay, it's queued up, so I can start watching it." Yeah. And Gabriel says he'll tell the wife. Yeah, yeah. If you and your wife, M. Gabriel, like the old film noir style movies, like Humphrey Bogart playing Philip Marlowe or Sam Spade or any of that kind of stuff, you're going to like this TV show. Again, you don't have to be a comic book fan to like the show. They did a really good, whoever wrote it did a really good job of blending the two together seamlessly to where it's believable, if that makes sense. And the cars, all the old, I don't know where they found all these old cars or the parts to make the replicas of these old cars, but it's all like 1920, late 1920s, early 1930s cars. Mostly 1920s vintage cars. Yeah, it's really well done. I'm trying to figure out what I can say and not be it spoilery. But yeah, I already sold Denny on it. And Cage's secretary, who the woman they have playing her, just did a beautiful job on that in that role too. The wisecracking um, secretary with the heart of gold kind of character, and the kid in it who does odd jobs for Nicolas Cage's character. That kid is comic gold, man. That's in the series. The things that yeah, and him and the secretary at one point playing off of each other, because I don't think this is a spoiler, but she's like trying to teach him how to read and do math and stuff. So the playing off of each other that those two have towards end of the season's really good too. So but yeah, definitely. Like I said, if you have Amazon Prime, watch this show. You're gonna love it. That trailer that I showed at the beginning of the show and doesn't do the show justice, man. I mean, that the trailer makes the show look good. The show's better than what the trailer makes it out to be. Even it's a good trailer for a great show. There's some horror elements in it too. Now that I remember, now that I think about it, you know, because some of the things that happen in there could be definitely be uh, classified as horror. I don't want to go into specifics, but and before you let you, I don't, and if you got kids, before you let them watch it, I would watch it first. No, like I said, there's nothing, there's no graphic sex scenes or anything like that in it. The closest you get to anything like that is the one cop has a nudie magazine. But there's no sex scenes or anything like that along those lines in it. Like I said, it plays up like the old film noir movies do. You didn't have graphic sex scenes back then. But there's a little bit more swearing than what you would have seen back in the 1930s in a movie, not in real life. I'm talking about in a movie. But not a lot. The main thing that the main reason why they couldn't fit the okay to call it Spider-Man or have the main character be Peter Parker's the violence and the smoking and drinking. But yeah, it's a remember the old must watch things. I would put this up there with it. I would put this in that category. And it's been a long time since I would have said any TV show would be a must watch thing. This was really, really good. It was shot well. The acting was good. The writing was good. Directing, the sets were good. I mean, it was just, and the cinematography, particularly the black and white, was excellent. I don't know if they used one camera on top of another, but it's not. But the colorized the color and the black and they don't look like they used color film and then turned it to black and white or shot in black and white and then colorized it. It looks like they filmed both at the same time with two different cameras that might have been piggybacking off of the same mount. Yeah, it's just a good old school TV show or detective drama, basically. That just so happens to have superhero in it. This could have been made without the superhero parts and still been a good TV show. Packer said, "About time they come out with a good show." Yeah, like I said, this is probably the best TV show I've seen in 20 years. Every so often, you'll get a hidden gem that comes along, or a gem that comes along. Uh, what shows have I watched in the last 20 years that were new that I would sit down and watch? There was Criminal Minds, uh, Last Man Standing, the Arrowverse, Agents of Shield. Well, you got a couple of them right there that are well, comic book movies or comic book TV shows. But yeah, most new TV shows I don't watch. There's not a whole lot of stuff that's good on TV or in movie theater. This was good. Like I said, Nicolas Cage plays an older guy too. He's not a. It's not like they de-aged him or anything for the part either. Then he says he can't tell the last time he watched a TV show. Yeah, yeah. It's been a while since I've sat down and watched a TV show. If I do watch a TV show, it's old reruns of something. It's not something new. Then he says it's usually sports or nothing. Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I've been watching on TV is sports. The one channel I watched gave this a good review, and then another channel they gave it a good review, and then another one on their weekly live show gave it a good review. It's like, okay, it's only 8 episodes. If I like it, okay. If I don't, didn't waste a whole lot of time with it. But it was worth it. It was worth it. I mean, I sat down, watched the first half last night, watched the second half. In other words, 4 episodes last night, 4 episodes this morning and early afternoon before the Pirate game came on. And I really enjoyed it. I might even go back and watch it again to see what little Easter eggs I may have missed. Because, like I said, there are Easter eggs. If you're a film noir fan, there are Easter eggs, like the example I gave of the Maltese Falcon being in Silvermane's warehouse. So there are those kinds of Easter eggs. Yeah, really well made show. I give it 2 thumbs up. And like I said, the acting and everything was great. Then he says he started watching the Rangers game, but he fell asleep after 4 innings, wake up, and it was over. I've done that before with different sporting events. Been so tired, just sat down to watch it, and woke up a couple hours later, was like, shit, game's over. Been there, done that. Then he says he's watching college softball now. Texas Tech versus UCLA. But everything is correct to the period too. Like I said, the cars already, the types of guns that are being used, the radios that people are listening to. It's all period correct. They did a really good job setting the time frame. You don't see somebody pulling a Glock, for example. It's all World War One vintage, early 1930, to the early 1930s. You got a few guys using 1911s. You got some using Walthers. Yeah, obviously the Colts, like the pocket Colt and all that kind of stuff's being used. Tommy guns, those, you know, that era, the criminals had all the surplus of Tommy guns and whatnot. So yeah. Evening run, Wayne. Bonsai, sir. We're just talking about Spider Noir, the Spider-Man esque film noir TV show that was done by Sony and Marvel and is on Amazon Prime if you have it. Yeah, I've been telling the guys 2 thumbs up on that. That was really well done. If you're a fan of film noir or comic books or just plain good TV, it's good TV. And it's if you have Amazon Prime, it's on there. It's an 8 episode season with commercials. It's about an hour an episode. Then he says he loved the Model 70 can of vegetables disappear. Yeah, if you haven't seen Ron Wayne's Model 7 Winchester Model 70 and 30-06 video that he just put out, get over there and watch that on his channel, Ron Wayne Official. And the orange juice jug, you're lucky that didn't spray back and hit you far enough away. I would not have wanted that landing spraying me. I tell you that much. 2-year-old bottle of orange juice. Dang. I made a comment in the video about how I thought I miscounted canned goods at the beginning of the video. Then you said at the end why the one didn't get shot. And it's like, that explains it. Ron says that's why it was at 100 yards. Yeah. 100 yards, you're not as likely to get splashed. Hey, just imagine the odor that when you get walk down range. Whew. That orange juice, man, it sits for a while. It gets rancid. I know that from when I worked at Giant Eagle. Then he says 30-06 is still a banging round. Take down anything, maybe even 30-6. I mean, not 30-6. T-Rex. Yeah, take out a 30-6 with a 30-6. I guess a trick shooter probably could. Truck stop bathroom midsummer. Oh, no, it's probably worse than that. Construction site porta potty midsummer. Yeah. Take down a T-Rex with a 30-6. Guys have shot elephants with it. T-Rex would be shooting a taller elephant. Hide-wise, more than likely. Might work. Probably feel a little bit more comfortable with something like a 300 Winchester Magnum. If Gunsnob were here, he would tell you you just need a 270. Speaking of guns, oh, yeah, Packer said his 300 Win Mag was awesome. Yeah. Speaking of guns, there was a case I saw a story on Fox News where Add me to screen. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? Anything? What in the world? Okay. So okay, we're back. Got it. Okay. Anyway, I was just talking about you guys were talking about the rifle. I was talking about a case I saw in the story on Fox News where in Alabama, um, a guy accidentally shot a girl, her son's girlfriend, with a 22 revolver, an antique 22 revolver, and her family is now trying to sue the manufacturer of an antique. Correct me if I'm wrong, but under federal definitions of what falls into an antique, that would have to be what, 1898 or older, unless they unless they altered that recently. That manufacturer may not be in business anymore. Yeah, they're saying the weapon functioned negligently. Now, maybe they're not up to how these things work. And the article that the story is from is a lawyer explaining all this too. They didn't have the safety standards back when that revolver would have been made that we have today. Ron Wayne says, yeah, ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I can see the family's hurt, but that manufacturer may not even be in business anymore. Vanessa Kitty out there in the YouTube chat. And if it is, it's more than likely not the same iteration that it was back then either. I mean, look at all the different ownership groups since that time period that Smith and Wesson and Colt went through. Remington isn't even in existence anymore. And those would have been the big three handgun manufacturers at that time period here in the United States. And Denny says one of his coworkers at another facility was cleaning his 30-06 and went off. Dude had a round in it. It went through two walls and struck a pedestrian. He was arrested, but eventually charged lesser crime. Guy was fine after healing. Yeah, the guy in the case I'm talking about has been charged with negligent homicide. But the fact that it's an antique handgun could play into the defense's position as well, which is something else that the attorney that's being interviewed in the article that I read was talking about. The see turn of the 19th to 20th century, 22 revolver, you're going to be probably looking at something that would have been a single action of some variety. Yeah, don't know, Ron. Don't know what firearm it was. They didn't release that information. Oh, we got Ron 2A Matters out there on the YouTube side, by the way. Evening, sir. Yeah, we don't know what type or what variety. If we know it was a 22 revolver, that's all that I've seen that was released about it, and that it was an antique. So my guess is it's probably going to be something like a Colt single action army style or a Remington of that variety. Let's be honest. the Remington 1875 is basically the same thing as the Colt. So anything of that variety, probably gonna be something along those lines. Maybe a Smith and Wesson Model 3, uh, an old Iver Johnson, maybe, or an H&R. But none of those companies exist as they did back then. The ones that are still in business are just the same nameplate as back then. They're not the same ownership or anything along those lines. Smith and Wesson's not even in the same state anymore. You know, Remington, they don't even exist as a handgun manufacturer. So it's going to be very hard for the. I don't know. It, again, it depends on what the article is classifying as antique. If they're going by the federal definition of what an antique firearm is, ain't no way in hell the family's going to be able to successfully sue the manufacturer. There's just no way. Like Ron says out there on YouTube side, there's so Ron Wayne. I'm going to specify because there's two Rons out there now. There's so many fly by night companies back then. Yeah, and like I was saying, even the big names, the names everybody knows, Colt, Remington, Smith and Wesson, they're not what they were back then. They're not. They're essentially different companies with the same name. Colt now is essentially CZ, right? Colt's a division of CZ. That's not the same company. Smith and Wesson's changed ownership, I don't know how many times. Remington, like I was saying, they're not even around. Yeah, exactly, Packer. Remington is DOA. The old Iver Johnson and H&R, they don't exist as they did back then. And like, there's so many other smaller companies that nobody knows the name of. Who knows what would have been, the little companies that were making knockoffs of the bigger companies' guns. Talk and Rumble out there on the YouTube side. Evening, sir. So yeah, I don't see how that I don't see how they could possibly successfully sue the manufacturer. There's no way conceivable. Again, that's if we're going by the federal definition of what constitutes an antique, and they're just not calling it an antique because it's an old gun. Yeah, since there was the lawyer that was talking about it is a firearms attorney, has experience in firearms cases. I'm assuming that he would know the federal terminology and the legal terminology of what constitutes an antique. Fox News may not, and just think, oh, the gun's 40 years old. That makes it an antique. You know what I mean? In that case, if it's just a 40-year-old gun and they can track it, you might have a better chance. Still, I wouldn't count on it, even at that point, because a gun 40 years ago isn't going to be manufactured to the manufacturing standards of today still. I mean, take a Smith and Wesson Model 19 from 1980 and compare it to a Smith and Wesson Model 19 now. Those are two different grades of steel in those handguns. The Model 19 in 1980, you were still being told carry 357, train with 38. The new Model 19 can uh, fire 357 training without having to worry about the metallurgy. So even a 40-year-old gun compared to a gun made now it's going to be a big difference in manufacturing standards. It may be faulty by today's standard, but it wasn't. But it's not faulty by the standard at the time when it was made. That's okay, Ron. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm tired too, and your joke just fell flat anyway. I don't even know what you were referencing off the top of my head. So yeah, yeah. I don't see the family being very successful in suing the manufacturer of that revolver for damages. I don't see it. Of course, no, especially not in Alabama. If it were somewhere, if it were New York, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, Illinois, California, Colorado, maybe in one of those states, maybe. I don't see it going too far in Alabama. Then he says he's exhausted, long weekend, not ready to head back to the office tomorrow. Yeah, I know what pinfire are, Ron. I didn't. That's not what I thought. I thought something happened that you were referencing. But yeah, I know what a pinfire round is. They were very popular with the French back in the 1800s. Packard says the PLCAA was supposed to prevent those lawsuits, but the Remington settlement changed that. What the PLCAA was supposed to do was prevent lawsuits against manufacturers because somebody did something wrong with their firearm, like robbed a bank, murdered somebody, that kind of thing. The PLCAA is supposed to defend against that. It doesn't defend against a lawsuit if the gun is deemed to have been uh, to have malfunctioned. The manufacturer is still on the chopping block if the gun malfunctioned and that's what caused the issue. So the PLCAA would not be applicable here. Did they make pinfire pistols? I know they made rifles. Yeah, the needle Dricey. Yeah, that's another one. But yeah, the family's lawsuit wouldn't violate the PLCAA. It's just the age of the firearm in question would nullify whether the company would be on the hook for that one. Basically, it would work similar to a what am I thinking of? Statute of limitations, essentially, because of the age of the firearm itself. That would, at a certain point, the gun's going to be so old that there's no way that the manufacturer can be held liable for what happens with that firearm. At that point, it's up to the individual owner. Yeah, okay. Packard says, yeah, there were a lot of pinfire revolvers in France. Okay, most of the pinfires I've ever seen were rifles. I've not personally seen a handgun. So, okay, good to know. Ron Wayne said he smashed his thumb last fall with his hammer. Still no money from his swing. Yeah. Packer said they still make a 2 millimeter pinfire. It's a small little round. Yeah, I thought that one was odd. Um, Suing an antique manufacturer. Again, that company whichever company it is, they're either going to be out of business or it's not the same company anyway. You know, Colt Patent Firearms Company is not the Colt of today. Smith and Wesson Firearms or whatever whatever their full name is not the company today that they are when that revolver would have been manufactured. Like we've said multiple times, Remington's not even in business anymore. Packrat said that Demo Ranch had some pinfire rings. Yeah. Honestly, well, at one time I would have said I found it hard to believe that the family would find a lawyer willing to take that lawsuit against the manufacturer, but these days, I'm not. Can't really say that because look at some of the other things we've seen lawyers sue about and win, no less. So, spill a cup of coffee on yourself, sue because it was too hot. So a cup. You want a cup of cold coffee? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. This world is crazy anymore. Like I said, there are certain states where I would fully expect that the family might have a chance to winning that lawsuit. Not that there's going to be a defense to respond, depending on who made that gun. I haven't seen if they updated that to say what kind of gun it was or not. But, they said all I saw was that it was a antique 22 is what they're calling it, an antique 22 revolver. And people in the comments talking about, oh, why wasn't it unloaded? He could have been checking to make sure that it was unloaded when it went off. If it was an old single action, he's pulling particularly like on a Colt, you got the old single action armies, you got to manipulate that hammer in order to check the cylinder and unload it. Packrat says, why don't sharks eat lawyers? I don't know. Why don't sharks eat lawyers? But anyway, pull that hammer back just a little bit too far and it slips. It doesn't catch on the first click so that you can safely manipulate the cylinder. That could set off a soft rim 22 round. So there's I've seen that happen at the range where somebody was pulling the hammer back on their 22 revolver, old 22 revolver. The hammer slipped and it set the round off. Hacker says, sounds like they didn't know what they were doing. You never know. Well, we won't know unless the case goes to court. Yeah, he's been charged. Like I said, he's been charged with negligent homicide. Why don't sharks eat lawyers? Because they don't eat their own kind. Saw another story this week, not firearms related this time, but it's another homicide story. Guy ordered abortion pills in the mail, crushed them up, and put them in his girlfriend's drink because he told her she had to get an abortion and she refused to. She drank the beverage, which was a water bottle with the liquid IV, the instant IV or whatever it is, that kind of stuff. He mixed that in with the abortion pill in the water, dissolved the abortion pills in the water with that to cover the taste of the medicine. And she drank the beverage, not knowing what was in there, and the boyfriend has now been charged with, I forget what kind of homicide, and unlawful termination of a pregnancy and some other stuff. This was in Texas, by the way. So Texas does have an abortion law on the book, so yeah. This is the piece of work that did that, in case anybody's wondering. That's the guy. Whoops, would help if I shared over here. That's him. That's the son of a bitch that did that. He was indicted on felony charges based on allegations he administered abortion medication to a woman without her consent. Yeah. And the woman wanted to keep the child. He didn't, so he took it into his own hands. Montgomery County Attorney's Office and Montgomery County Sheriff's Office announced that a Montgomery County grand jury had returned felony indictments against the guy. He's been indicted on charges of an abortion and injury to a child. And he had also been charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. It was noted that Texas has an abortion statute, and there are some statutory exemptions to the abortion provisions, but none that would apply in this case. Yeah. Apparently, this happened all the way back in February, and this story just showed up in People, so, of all places. But yeah, that's the state of the world we live in now. Packer saying something about a gunfight in San Antonio. No, don't know anything about that. And Packer also says that guy looked good in stripes. He looked good with a rope around his neck. Yeah, I said it. So what? Gallows would be too good for him. And I'm running out of things to talk about. Anybody out there got anything? Not this is going to be a short show. think, but yeah, I haven't really paid much attention to news this week. I just saw those two stories I was just talking about in passing the other day. One I actually got in my email. One about the guy with the abortion pills. California House passes bill critics call Stop Nick Shirley Act. Oh, goody. Of course, California is going to move to stop independent journalists from being able to investigate their fraud. How are they supposed to do their fraud if you get all these independent journalists sticking their noses in? Yep. Denny's heading out. He said, you got to get up for work in the morning. All right. Have a good night, Denny. R4 Mississippi Thunder out there in the YouTube side. Evening to you, sir. Yeah, Packer said Antonio's the San Antonio shootout thing. He's a guy on YouTube who goes by the name Chud the Builder. Says he's a racist and troublemaker. Oh, okay. Yeah, but no, I hadn't heard anything about that one. Um, Packer says he skipped out on a check and got into an argument with a guy and killed him. Sounds like a really nice guy. Yep, sounds like a really nice guy. I don't remember if we talked about the. No, we didn't talk about this last week because last week we talked about the interview. So, but I don't know if you guys saw, but Dodge or Chrysler, Stellantis, whatever how you want to call them, have officially announced that they are going to be releasing the Ram Rampage in the United States, which would be a competitor for the Ford Maverick. And they're saying it's going to be more powerful than the Maverick. Yes and no. It's going to be more powerful than the 2025 and 2026 Maverick, but it's going to be less powerful than the 2027 Maverick. The 20 Ford just announced their 2027 Maverick. It's going to have between 250 and 275 horsepower, depending on the source, and about 300 foot-pounds of torque or more. The Rampage is going to have about 270 horsepower, and I think they said 285, 290 foot-pounds of torque. And it doesn't come out until 2028 at the earliest, which is silly because they're already making it for market in other countries. They could have had this in the U.S. already. Packer says, did you hear LA may be going Republican? Yes. Yes, I have, Packer. Spencer, oh, what the hell's his name? I follow the guy on X. I can't think of his damn name right now. But yeah, he's currently leading the polling in Los Angeles. And his ads are absolutely freaking hilarious if you've not seen any of them. He's not afraid to take a shot at his opponent. And when they take a shot at him, he hits back. R4 Mississippi Thunder says that's crazy. The Maverick should be a car like it used to be. Well, they did when they decided they were going to bring out the compact pickup. They did the usual um, deal where they get the opinions of the focus groups, and the Mavericks, the name that won among the people out of the names that were proposed. So that's why the Maverick name got put on with the pickup truck. And let's face it, Ford in this country doesn't make a car except for the Mustang. They have cars in other countries, just not the U.S. The U.S., if you want a Ford car, you have to. It's a Mustang. Otherwise, you're getting an SUV or a pickup truck from Ford. Getting some barbecue out there on the YouTube side, complaining about Rumble as usual. It wouldn't be a Sunday without barbecue out there complaining about the Rumbles. Packrat said he had a Maverick with a 302 in it. Anyway, a guy had one with a 351 Cleveland in it. As light as that car was, that engine, that car just flew down the road. But, what else? Oh yeah, and in addition to the Rampage, Dodge also, or you know the usual people, Ram announced they are also bringing back the Durango, or not the Durango, the Dakota. They still make the Durango under the Dodge name, but yeah, they're going to be bringing back the Dakota, the midsize. So they're going to have the Rampage and the compact market competing with the Ford Mavericks. I believe Hyundai announced that they're withdrawing the Santa Cruz because it's not selling, which will leave Ford by itself for at least 2 years with no competitor, direct competitor. Which is why Toyota has been trying to get a version of the Hilux approved for the U.S. market, but that's just not happening. So, yeah, Ford's going to lose its only competitor for the next year, 2 years in the compact pickup truck market. So, question is it going to be too little too late for Ram at that point? As the Maverick will already have been on the market by the time the Rampage hits for what, 6 years? And it's not like Ram didn't have the capability of bringing that into the US already because they've been selling it for a few years now in markets like Brazil and Argentina. They could have brought that here to the US. How long ago? And the one thing that might make people look to the Rampage is the diesel option in it. And they're saying that that probably won't be coming to the US market when they release it here. Kind of like how Ford has the diesel in the Ford Ranger in Australia, but have no plans on bringing that version of the Ford Ranger here. I've heard people say that if they had the diesel option in the Ranger, they would have bought the Ranger instead of the F-150. Packard says Dodge Durango for 26, just left over 25. They're bringing a new Durango in 27. Yeah, that's about right. But honestly, you get these blocks where certain year to a certain year, it's the same thing. That's not unusual. Next year, Maverick gets for 2027 gets a minor overhaul. They're increasing the power after decreasing the power in the 25 and 26 from the previous, and giving it an interior change. But the exterior is going to be the same in the 27, which they just changed the exterior, so it's not that big a deal. The interior between the Mavericks, the only real difference was that they got rid of the climate control buttons and put a bigger screen from the prior generation Maverick to the 2025 and 2026. But now they're doing some more interior changes. And like I said, they're increasing the engine output in the 27. And Ram may be too late to the party. They're doing what they probably should have done 2 years ago. Packrat says they haven't changed the third gen Durango very much. Yeah. It's not unusual. Ram is saying that the Dakota will probably have a diesel option in it. If that happens, will that force Ford to put a diesel in the Ranger? Like I said, they've already got a diesel that fits in the Ranger because they sell it in the Ranger over in Australia, the Ranger Super Duty. Where's TJ at when you need TJ fishing and shooting when you need them to talk about something? Those of you who were there on Wednesday night for Gary's chat, how cool was that having TJ jump on? No, Pack Rat, the Ram Charger is not going to be an extended range pickup truck. Dodge announced that this past week too. The Ram Charger name is going back on a full-size SUV. Now, whether they're going to be making the extended range pickup truck or not remains to be seen. But they officially announced that the Ram Charger name is going to be on a full size SUV, not on the pickup truck. So yeah, it's going to be one that's going to be made to compete with the Chevy Tahoe and the hell's the Ford one, the Explorer. Barbecue says TJ Fishing is a total badass. Yeah, yeah. It was cool talking to him on Wednesday. Yeah, those of you who, I think everybody out there is a member of Gizzard. Well, I don't know if our four is. Everybody else is. Yeah, he was cool to talk to. Get his perspective on some things. Yeah, they announced a whole lineup of different vehicles. Like the Jeep Gladiator is going to be their Wrangler Gladiator now. The next generation of that. Then they're going to also have a single cab Jeep pickup truck as well. I can't remember what the hell the Scrambler or something like that. I think they called it. Yeah, they had a whole list of different things that they were listing. Trying to remember what all they were. Damn it, I can't remember. But yeah, the whole lineup. There were a couple of new Chrysler cars that were announced. Under the Chrysler nameplate. There were a couple of new Dodge things that they announced as well. But yeah, Stellantis put out a whole list of different cars that they're coming out with here in the near future, and some of the automotive media got to go to their headquarters in Michigan and see either a working prototype or a mock-up of the various cars that they're going to be and trucks they're going to be coming out with. Including SRT versions of just about everything in the Ram lineup, which should be interesting. A couple of the Jeeps are getting SRT equivalent too. I forget what the hell they called them, but they're basically going to be the SRT equivalency. Again, I don't remember what the name badge was. Trying to remember. I think it was was a TFL car or TFL truck that had the video on that earlier this week or late last week. I forget which. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they're doing. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find a press release. Yeah, and see if I can remember how to spell the goddamn company's name. Yeah, they're saying they're bringing 11 new models to the U.S. by 2030. All right, yeah. Here's the chart that TFL was showing. Go back over here and I can screen share this. Since we're talking about it, I might as well. But yeah, here's all the new stuff or old stuff plus new stuff. But see, like here, the Jeep Scrambler, that's going to be that's a new pickup truck that they're coming out with. Single, basically like the old Jeep Comanches back in the day. Then over here on the Chrysler side, you got an Airflow, which is a car, and then the Arrow, which in the Arrow Cross, which are like little uh, SUV car type things. And you got the GLH, which is going to have an SRT model. The new Durango, which is going to have an SRT model. The new Charger, and then this one, I think, I'm trying to remember, Copperhead, I think, or something like that. They were calling that. It's going to be like a little sports car. Then over here on Ram, you got the Dakota, the Rampage. Any of the things that have a little flag are things that are getting an SRT variant. And this site did a terrible job because they put their goddamn graphic over top, their writing over top of the graphic. But each of these, this one also has the little flag next to it, if I remember correctly. This is the Ram Charger SUV. So, yeah. And then you got the Cherokee with the little flag, the Grand Wagoneer with the little flag, the Scrambler's got the little flag. I'm surprised the Gladiator, they said the Gladiator should, but they screwed up and forgot to put it in the graphic. And then all the ones that have the little star are ones that are going to have an electric or a hybrid variant as well. So, yeah. Pacifica's already on the market. So see if they got any pictures of some of the new cars. I doubt it. If that's one of the new cars, it's not bad looking. Yeah, see the little flag means that there's an SRT version. Yeah, they're not going into a whole lot of detail. This was a concept for the Scrambler that they had. Notice what it says there, 392. And then when they were talking to the one guy who went to the event at the manufacturer, they said, yeah, the Scrambler will have an option with the 392 in it. Anybody interested in that? Yeah. That's pretty much a diagram of what they got. Packard said he hopes they're going to do a full-size four-door car for the cops. I'm sure they would, probably based on the Durango, because that's what the sheriff's department here uses is the Durango. Since they don't got the four-door Charger anymore, they've been switching out the old Chargers for new Durangos. I forget what the town cops use. I don't remember if they use the Ford or the Ford or the Ram. I know county uses the Ram or Dodge, I should say, because the Durango has the Dodge name on it. It would make more sense if they would move that over to the Ram nameplate, since they're saying that the Ram and Durango are going to, or the Dakota and Durango are going to use some of the same parts. They're going to be based off the same chassis, I believe they said. I think the Durango is the only thing out of their truck lineup that they didn't move from Dodge to Ram when they split the Ram nameplate off into its own brand, which is still silly. I still don't get why the hell they did that. You don't see Ford and Chevy doing that. Like, why the hell are you splitting off the trucks into its own brand? Just keep it's the Dodge Ram. Doesn't make any damn sense. Packer said he knows their Durango is fast. Yeah. There was also a picture that somebody had put out there. I forget where or who I should say on X from the show, which was showing a one of their trucks in police colorization and equipment. So we could be seeing a Ram doing the Dakota or maybe or the Rampage maybe in a police skew as well. I'm going to assume because you have one. Packer said he wonders how he knew that they're fast. I don't think Ford does a Ranger in police skew. They do one in rescue skew though. Probably could do one in police if they got an order for it. I don't think they have it as a standard offering for law enforcement though. They might. Who knows? You never know. I've not seen one. That's all I can say. But I have seen the Ranger in a rescue skew. The EMTs here have one. Packrat said he wonders if they'll do the Ram Charger in the police. I don't know. Seems like the police departments are using these smaller more mid-size SUVs, like the Durango and the Explorer, as the basis for their interceptors. That's what Ford does. Their police interceptor cruiser, whatever they call it now, I forget. That's based on the Explorer, and the Dodge is the Durango. So I don't know. They might for heavy duty use, but as a standard patrol issue, probably not. I wouldn't think they would. Maybe for like a SWAT configuration or something like that, maybe. Or for something that they need if they got to go somewhere way back in the country, dirt road territory, maybe for something like that. But yeah, standard patrolman issue, doubtful. They're probably just going to stick with the Durango for that purpose. Packer was saying San Diego uses Explorer and everyone else uses Tahoe. Tahoe is kind of big to be using for just a standard cruiser. That's the one that used to be full size Chevy Blazer style, right? Or did they change? Or did Chevy change their nameplates again? Packer says Texas DPS uses Tahoe and Durango. Department of Public Service, or something like that. Public Safety, rather. Department of Public Service. That's DPS. Depending on where you're at, mean two different things. He said San Antonio. Okay, but yeah, DPS. Depending on where you're at, either Department of Public Safety or Department of Public Service. Two different things. Like Pittsburgh, the Department of Public Services are the water department and sewage department and things like that. And it's abbreviated DPS. Okay, yeah, Tahoe's still the old full size Blazer. And of course, the cat's going to start now. You know, why wouldn't he? Surprised he's been quiet this long. What else we got to talk about? Talked about cars. We talked about guns. We talked about a silly lawsuit involving guns. Talked about Spider Noir, which again, if you have Amazon Prime, highly recommend. Highly recommend Spider Noir. Great show. And I recommend watching it in black and white. You can watch it either in black and white or color. I recommend black and white. Captures more of the gritty feel of the show. And the era that they're going for. I don't know what else to talk about. Might just wrap this one up early. Packrat said since he's a ham radio operator and has an extra antenna on his Durango, it gets confused with being in a cop car. I could see how that would happen. Get an unmarked Durango. The only way you're really going to tell is if it's got the extra antenna. Which is what's odd about Ford. Ford literally calls theirs the police, whatever. Oh, yeah. So you don't even have to look to see if it has the extra antenna. You just look for the police cruiser or interceptor, whatever the hell they call it. The name tag on there. Yeah, I think we're just going to wrap this one up because I'm running out of steam. I don't know what else to talk about. So, we covered a few different things tonight. including what's probably the best TV show to come on around in a long time. Packer said he also has limo tint. Hell, depending on what you got, it might come standard on it anymore. Remember back in the day, you had to do that yourself, go have that done yourself. They didn't put that on the cars by default. Now you go buy a new car and it's got that tint on it already. Wonder how many tint shops were put out of business by the manufacturers tinting the windows from the factory. With that note, I think we will bid y'all adieu for this week. And thank everybody for showing up and watching. And again, if you have Amazon Prime, do yourself a favor and go watch Spider Noir. It's 8 episodes with commercial, about an hour long. You can also, there's an option where you pay a little bit more and you don't have to watch commercials on Amazon. It's up to you. Commercials didn't bother me any. Watching commercials are part of watching television, you know what I mean? It sucks though to pay for a service and still have commercials. Anyway, you got Amazon Prime, go watch Spider Noir. I mean, obviously, if you're living in a time zone where you're going to have to go to bed, don't do that now. But when you get a chance, again, 8 episodes, about an hour long with commercials. Really good show. You'll be through it and not even realize it. And it's a quick moving show. It's really good. It's really well done. It's not one of those shows where it lulls and gets really boring. Between action, there's always some kind of intrigue going on. So it's a good show. Good show. It'll keep you entertained for at least 8 hours. And who knows, you might even go back and watch and try and catch all the Easter eggs you may have missed if you're a noir fan. Because there are, like I said, there are a bunch of them scattered throughout the show. I know damn well I didn't catch all of them. But the Maltese Falcon one is really hard not to see it. So anyway, go watch that, and we will catch y'all probably tomorrow night on Gizzard Gary's show. I may not be able to be on Gary's tomorrow night. I don't know yet because I got to be up on Tuesday to go get X-rays for the VA. So I don't know if I'm going to be I don't know if I'm going to be there for Gary's or just have to cut out early tomorrow night. I haven't decided yet. So anyway, we will see all of you all good peoples later on. Have a good night, everybody.